Hello, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. My name's Jason. I was tasked with giving a overview of kind of our process from start to finish on how we build our courses at Ed2go, and I'm going to try and keep this video short, simple, kind of make it more of an opener to a discussion that we might have in the future about this topic. So a few quick points that I wanted to say is we don't do any authoring in LO. And when I say LO, that's referring to the Learning Objects platform that all of our content lives in. So we don't author in it. We do all our authoring outside of LO. And LO just houses our content. But we do, on occasion, do small maintenance revisions in LO. And then, of course, we do all of our fix-its in LO. Because that's where the content lives and where the students are being directed to view the content. And I want to say that our workflow starts and ends in Microsoft Word. So this is kind of like a little diagram that shows in a nutshell kind of our process. So I'm going to start up here. So our process starts with our subject matter experts and learning designers, and they use Word to do all the collaboration and build the courses out. And I'll talk a little bit more and show you a visual of kind of what they do in Word, and then talk a little bit about why we use Word. So then from there, the Word documents are proofed and then given to a multimedia designer. And the job of the multimedia designer is to convert the Word doc to HTML. And right now, one of the tools we use is Dreamweaver to do that, although we do use other HTML editors. And the reason that we convert it to HTML is, one, because, we're an online company, so all of our students are going to be viewing HTML because that's what the web is built in. But HTML is also supported by the platform. And so once we do all of our conversion and once we do all of our working on the course and do our accessibility, which I'll talk more about and show you a visual of what the multimedia designers do with the lessons that are converted. But do accessibility, do add interactivities, and so on. Once that's all done, we're tasked to go ahead and create the course structure in Learning Objects, create the course, and set up the dependencies. And I'll talk more about what that means. But once that's all set up, as of right now, there's no importer where we can just import our HTML files right into LO. And we would import them lesson by lesson. That doesn't exist right now, so we do painstakingly copy and paste page by page into LO. And so once that's done, the course does go live after it goes through our review stages. But there's always a time when a course needs to be revised, because we're at Ed2go, we're constantly creating new courses, but we also got to maintain and revise our existing courses. And so in order to do that, we got to be able to get it out of the platform. And using some plugins that we created at Ed2go, where we created an exporter that we call internally, we call it Pop-Tart. But we use that to export to Word, so that way we can get right back to this stage here where the SME and the LD can revise and work on a course, and then the whole process just kind of starts right back up again. So this is an example here of the kind of a starting point for a new course. There would be an empty template that would kind of be set up with different tags and things. But this particular document is actually one of the documents exported from the platform. And so in this revision, the SME and the LD will work together, and they'll work specifically in this Word document. Now, Word is kind of like a universal tool that everybody kind of knows how to use. So there's no learning curve involved when it comes to working with the SME. And so Word has very useful tools like track changes. It has comment sections. So as an example, this particular course here is a little unique. It has actually two subject matter experts working together with the learning designer. So there's a ton of collaboration that goes on. And so you can see here there's tons of comments from both SMEs, and they're asking questions. Should we do this? Do we need to change this? And so on. And then it's nice because we are using track changes. You can see the changes that the SMEs are making to this document. So our learning designers do have some type of quality control. And the reason I'm saying this is in contrast to if we had a SME working directly in the platform. LO doesn't have the ability for a comment section. They don't have the ability to compare what our SMEs are changing, so we wouldn't have any kind of control, kind of quality control going on. So again, this is kind of the process that they go through when revising a course and making changes. And they just do a lot of we do versioning with our documents. So when it's time to bounce the documents back and forth, they'll save out a new version. You can see this one's version 3, and so on. So that whole process takes place. There's and the LDs. I'm an MD, a multimedia designer. The LDs could talk a lot more about this process than I can, because that's what they do on a day-to-day. But once this is done, they send us the document, and what we do is we convert it to HTML in Dreamweaver, and then we go ahead and do all of our work. And so I'm going to go ahead and bounce over to kind of what I do on a day-to-day. And so one of the things that us MDs are really tasked with, other than adding images and interactivities and different things like that, and creating unique learning experiences, we're also tasked with accessibility, which is huge. So we are in charge of making sure our tables are accessible. We're in charge with maybe there's an image that might need a text equivalent or alt text. Since we are working in HTML, we can quickly add those things and making sure that screen readers are able to see things that we want them to see. And then maybe there's times when a screen reader might need to skip over a certain item or an image or something. Because we're working in HTML, we can use attributes to control what our screen reader experience is like. So that's a huge benefit to working in HTML, and one of the huge reasons why we prefer working in HTML. And I was going to show right here, this particular section is obviously referencing this image. To be accessible, we have to tell a screen reader and a non-sighted student what this image is. And so using our Ed2go, we call it a text equivalent toggle, I'm able to provide a toggle where a student can click a button, and then they are presented with this list full of all the different labels and things and description of what this image is. So to jump real quickly on what that end result would look like. So when a student's coming down the page with a screen reader, they would read this paragraph. They would be presented with this text equivalent toggle, so they'll know, okay, this is an image. And when the screen reader clicks that image or that text equivalent, they're presented with the list. And this is another thing that's also used on occasion for our print view. So there are some interactivities that are better presented in a list form. So when we print our pages, we could toggle that text equivalent, and then the student could, when they print out their course, which is very common, they're presented with a list of questions and answers, and kind of do a self-check off a printed document, which is a really nice feature. Okay, so to bounce back into here, so like I said, our process as an MD is to add images and interactivities and things like that, and then we do have to copy and paste section by section into the platform. And so we have our little breaks where we can then go ahead and grab the content that needs to be copied, and then we can go ahead and paste it right into the platform. So something that our team also strives to do is we try and keep things real templatized. I'm going to jump to this page here. So, because I know one of the things I believe someone was asking about was how we do assessments. So LO does have native assessments. And so these quizzes or assessments are usually graded, or they're designed to kind of prepare the student, and they might present to them some questions that are specifically on the final exam. And so for that situation, what we do for our SMEs is we give them a a template. So what this template does, and this is something that was designed by Learning Objects recently, and this template would consist of, and this is kind of like an example, but this template would consist of a series of tables that the SME could quickly learn kind of what it is. You'd have question 1, here's the question, and then you'd have your answer choices here, and then every answer needs feedback, so they could put their feedback here. And then using an asterisk, they can tell which question is correct. And so if SME was doing a multiple choice quiz with maybe 12 questions, you might see 12 of these. Maybe sometimes they might have multi-select or multi-choice or like true or false, like kind of like interspliced. And then we would give them a template that would have that kind of format. But we found that this is actually working pretty good, and we're finding that it's pretty simple for our SMEs to understand. But most of all, the reason why we like it is because it's importable. And so whereas if we would just give a SME a document and get questions and answers, we would have to convert it to some type of importable document. So this kind of solves that problem, which has been great. So another form of assessment that our team internally does is we started noticing that there might be times where our SMEs wanted not necessarily to make a formal assessment, which would be like the LO native assessment. They might want to do just kind of like a quick self-check on a specific topic, just to make sure the student gets a little bit of practice and understands a certain topic. So this is just an example here of kind of what we do, what our MD team kind of specializes in. And we found a format that we call Automake that we're pretty excited about for a number of reasons. So what this is you'll notice it's a list. And this list has a tag at the top called Quizilla. And so when a list is created and this Quizilla tag is placed at the top, our SMEs and our LDs could then follow a certain format. And what the end result looks like, is I'll go to this next tab, is when this list item gets turned into an actual self-check activity. And so I'm going to go back to the beginning here. So when a student comes on this activity, they'll see it's a pick and answer quiz. They can hit the next button, start their quiz, and they can see the question and pick their answer. And it's not a graded, it's just a self-check quiz. It's just for some quick practice, but a student go ahead and answer the questions and get feedback. And there's also a text equivalent that's created, and it's all done from this list. So you can see, so the formatting that needs to be followed is, the first thing is you put the question, and then you would put your answers, and then every answer has feedback, and then whichever feedback has the asterisks is the correct answer. And so it's very similar to kind of what we have going on here that was created by Learning Objects. And we found that this really worked, and that you were able to do a lot of customizations if need be. You can see that like this one has like background image and so on. And so this is kind of a format that our team has adopted for things like quizzes, maybe case studies, where we have a branching scenario that's in very early development that we're working on. But this format is one, it's very user friendly for a subject matter expert. We can give them a list template, and as long as they and everybody who's worked in Word has usually worked with lists at one point, and so using Word's list tool, you can just create your list, follow the formatting, and then in the end you'll have a quiz that looks like this. And another big reason, other than being user-friendly, is that it's importable and exportable. So this list could start in Word, be converted to HTML, be put in the platform, and then be exported out back to Word, and it's not going to break anything. Back in the day, before we had the Automake quiz, we were using kind of Flash HTML5 files. And we found that having to constantly revise or change, or you have to download the HTML5 file, make changes there, the FLA file, and then re-upload it, and after exporting it. And it's just a hassle to make, even if it was just maybe you spelled the word wrong, you had to go through this long process. But using something like this, you can just make all your quick changes because it's just a list. So that's kind of our kind of like an overview of our types of assessments. We use the LO native assessments, and then we also use our kind of like our custom auto makes. So another thing is all of our courses, they do have, we do use CSS because there's sometimes our SME wants to create a very specific learning experience. And our MD team is knowledgeable, and we are empowered to create unique learning experiences that we can then templatize and use for the rest of our team. So here's an example of how our subject matter expert thought it might be nice to, because this course is talking about like medical terminology. She thought it might be nice to kind of break apart, like visually break apart different pieces of this word. And so we're able to use styling and classes to apply these kind of looks to specific words. So as this lesson goes on, the student can go ahead and learn these different parts and kind of get a more of a visual breakdown of these words that they're going to need to know. So it's really nice because each MD is kind of empowered to work with the SME and work with the LD to create kind of these unique learning experiences that really enhance the material. So we found this whole process to be really good for our team. And again, it comes back to, I think, the fact that we're able to just work in a universal, easy tool like Word, and we don't have to, now our SMEs and our LDs, they can literally just focus on the material and not have to worry about like battling with the platform or spending time working with the SME and teaching them the platform. Just the other day, I was trying to have a SME preview a course, and I had to take a 15-minute a 15-minute meeting just to talk about how to log in because they were having trouble logging into the course. And so the idea of even sharing how to use this interface, and if you wanted to add a quiz, you would, select multiple choice and give it a title, add new, then you click it, and then from here, you're adding your questions and so on. If you want to add the next question, like teaching them what all this means, it's just kind of a hassle, and we feel like it's just a lot easier to give them a Word doc that they're familiar with. Fill out your question, your answer, and so on. And same thing with the actual narrative content. To just go ahead and poke through, you can see the titles, and this example will revise what needs to be revised, and just focus on creating learning experiences. And I didn't go over this, but I might as well say, like, you'll see here, the LDs, anytime that they know there's going to be something that the multimedia designer is going to need to get involved in, they just leave us a simple MD note. And so when we're working in the HTML, everything gets converted. We can easily see all these requests and fulfill any learning experience or any need that they may have. This particular request is to put something in a note box. So yeah, again, my name is Jason. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and hopefully it is a start to a discussion about kind of what we do here at Ed2go. And yeah, so thanks again for taking the time.